Hi everyone, Chris here from IELTS Advantage with another success story. So today we have Sarab who is going to share his success with you guys. So Sarab, can you start off just by introducing yourself to everyone?
Hi everyone, I'm Sarabdeep Singh from India and I'm currently working as a software developer.
And can you tell everybody a little bit about your IELTS journey? So how many times did you do the test? What scores were you getting? That type of thing?
I started to study about the test, study for this test back in 2018, August 2018, and I just thought that it's just an English test, so I can just pass it with just a little bit of hard work. And then I did my test in on December 1st, 2018. Yes, 2018, and I was quite confident that I would be getting the scores in all the modules, but that wasn't the case. So, like I got the scores in listening and in reading, but not in speaking and writing.
Hmm.
And then I thought that why was it the case? Why was this the case? So maybe I didn't use the correct format, or I didn't uh, give the examiner much to think about. So I started researching on the internet, and I got to know that there are predefined structures for this to do, and you need to give exam. You need to exactly give what the examiners are actually looking for, and then you can easily pass this test.
Hmm. And what
So
scores were you getting in speaking and writing when you weren't getting the scores that you need?
so after my first test, I got a 6.5 in both speaking and writing, and then I did the test again in July 2019, and then in that test I got a 7.5 in speaking, but a 6.5 in writing, and then I went for an EOR. Actually, before EOR, my score in speaking was 7, and after EOR it increased from 7 to 7.5, and I was also hoping that it would increase for writing too, but that wasn't the case. So I was worried, and I thought, like, if I can get a 7.5 in speaking, why not in writing? So then I finally decided to join your course. I got to know, like, what all mistakes I was doing in writing, and I started to figure out how can I improve on those scores, on those mistakes. So I came to know, after analyzing all the writing corrections, I got to know that I'm making a lot of mistakes in grammar, and they're not just major grammar mistakes. There are like few article mistakes or punctuation mistakes. Sometimes the subject verb agreement, but not too often. So like these were small mistakes that I was making a lot many times, and those were lowering my scores. Not just in grammar, but also in other for other parameters like coherence and cohesion. So that was making a lot of difference in that 6.5 and 7. So I realized that I should focus on all these things and then try to improve these areas. And after struggling with it for almost 6 months, I was confident to do the test when I got a 7 or 7.5 in 5 times in a row during the writing corrections. So then I decided to book my test and gave the test, and I got my desired scores.
Excellent, excellent, and I think that shows the value of understanding why you're getting 6.5, because you can go online and find lots of structures and lots of techniques and everything, and those are useful, but unless you know what mistakes you are making and the reasons why you are not getting that score, then how are you going to fix it? You know,
Yeah.
if you're a computer programmer, and it's a bit like fixing bugs in a code. You know,
Yeah.
you need to understand what those bugs are, and then fix them, and then you can have a nice website or a nice app or whatever it is.
Yes.
But until you understand what those are, you can't fix those bugs. Do you think that's a good analogy? Or I don't know anything
Yes,
about
yes,
computer
yes,
programming
yeah,
or
yeah.
software.
You were 100% correct, and also to mention, like while I was preparing, I was I was following you on Facebook and YouTube, and I was joining every free course you were giving, like $1 challenge or any other free courses. But then I was having a feeling that something is missing, and that was the personal feedback which I
Mhm.
got when I joined the course. And so I difference which I could see was that uh, while I was getting the personal feedback, that was having a much more impact on my writing, on my second writing. Before, I was just following your videos or some other teachers' videos and just trying to hope and do things, and I was hoping that everything would fall in place, but that was not going on.
Yeah, I think learning online, YouTube, using free resources are great. It's amazing. Even for my business and for my teaching and things like that, I use YouTube all the time. But for something really, really important, I will hire an expert. I'll hire a consultant. I'll hire somebody who knows what they're doing to come in and tell me exactly what I need to do. Um,
Yeah,
because free resources will get you will help solve a lot of problems, but they will also cause a lot of problems if you try and use them to fix things that you don't know anything about really. So they're a double-edged sword sometimes.
yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone who was in your position that uh, maybe is having problems with grammar, coherence and cohesion, things like that? How would you help them, or what advice would you give them?
Uh, mm, I would say, like, you, anyone who needs to pass this test and get their desired score, they need to do one thing for sure on a daily basis, and that is to consume the language every day in any format, be it listening, like you watching a video or a movie, reading an article, or writing an article or a poem, anything they like about the language, and try to gain and try to gain the phrases or vocabulary from native speakers. So, like, I have a few native speakers as my friends, so I talk to them mostly every day, um, or I would say 5 times in a week. So I get to learn a lot from them, not just in speaking, but in other aspects, like how they pronounce those words, how they use them in a structure. So that's quite important.
Yeah, it sounds very simplistic of me to say this, but if you want to get better at running, you need to go out and run more. If you want to lift heavy weights, you need to lift weights. The number of students who I talk to who say that they want a band 7 in English, and then I say, or in the IELTS test, and I say, well, how much English are you consuming? How much English are you using on a daily basis? And they normally say none. It's like, well, that's like someone saying they want to run a marathon, but they don't want to do any running. It's important to learn structures and improve your grammar and all of these different things. But at the end of the day, the IELTS test is an English test. So
Yeah.
you need to be reading a little bit every day, listening a little bit every day, speaking a little bit every day, writing a little bit every day. Think about why writing scores are normally much lower than speaking, than listening, than reading, because most people don't write that much in a foreign language anyway.
Yeah.
Most people from India, from Pakistan, from Vietnam don't spend hours and hours and hours writing in English. Why would you? So like anything else, if you don't practice that skill, if you don't use that skill, there's no way that you're going
Mhm.
to improve. So when you combine practice and using the language with focusing on your key mistakes, the things that you need that are causing you to get 6.5, and you do those two things, then that becomes very, very powerful. So that's great advice.
I Yeah, I guess like what most people think is that they need to use, like I was also doing the same mistakes, like to use big words and with grammar structures. So I guess your advice is really good. Like, keep it simple.
Hmm.
So when I was doing the test, I made sure that I'm making everything clear and crisp and keeping it
Yep.
simple, even though I need to repeat some words. So
Hmm.
that was okay. So I didn't think about any synonym. if I was not getting that in my head.
Yeah.
So I just didn't waste my time. So and so I was able to save some time for proofreading, and I could correct some mistakes.
Yeah,
So
and nearly every single success story that we have, they say, "Oh, I simplified my language. I started repeating words sometimes when I didn't have another way to do it," and those are the people that get the higher scores. And then when I do one of the free courses and I say that, then lots of people are like, "No, that doesn't work. That's the wrong advice." I say, "Well, what score did you get? 5.5, 6." It's like, well, maybe that's why you're
yeah,
trying to
and
use complicated language that you don't know how
yeah,
to use, and you're not helping the examiner understand how you've answered the question, you know.
and personally, I'd have to say, like most native speakers, they also won't think of like, okay, I should use a synonym now, or they would just simply repeat the word if
Yeah.
they don't get that in their head. So like while talking to my friends, I've seen this, that most of the time they are repeating the word, they're not just thinking about an synonym.
Yeah, because they're
So
focusing on communicating with you.
yes.
If you're in
So
a bar or a coffee shop with your friends, when they are speaking, what's the purpose of them speaking? The purpose of them speaking is to clearly communicate with you. And you do that by using appropriate, simple, accurate words. You don't do that by trying to think of as many complicated words as possible, because that would be terrible. Imagine going for a coffee with your friend and you're trying to, use as many complicated grammar structures. And like I've done this with students, and I've been like, what I'm going to try and do is have a conversation with you where I use every single tense in the English language. I can't do it. So why do
you,
some
you yeah,
IELTS teachers tell their students you need to use every tense in the English language in your speaking test, and you need to use all these complicated grammar structures? I can't do that, and I'm an IELTS teacher. I'm a native English speaker. How is somebody who is not a native English speaker going to possibly do that? It's not about giving you complicated solutions. It's about making it as simple as possible, you know?
yeah, and it's not just about English. It's the same in every language, even in my native language, Hindi. I won't be thinking about using a
No.
synonym or using every grammar structure or tense in Hindi. So it's just the same. So and that's the thing which people need to change. Like people need to change their perspective about learning a language. That the aim should be to clearly communicate and effectively communicate with the other person, so that they can pass on their message effectively.
Mhm.
So and that's what I guess the examiners are checking in the test.
Yeah, and it's again another similarity with coding. I don't know anything about coding, but I know people who are really good coders, and they say that the best code is very elegant, it's very simple, it is not complicated. And they said sometimes they look at code and they're like, "Oh, it's beautiful." And I said, Why is it beautiful?" And they said, "It's so simple and so elegant. I would never be able to do that, because to make it simple and easy to do is actually very, very difficult." um
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know anything about coding, but I hear them having these conversations, and that's what they say. Is that true?
yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's like any good writing is simple. Any good communication, any good marketing, any good anything is as simple as possible. I think the reason why a lot of teachers teach students to make things complicated is because I think a lot of students expect that, and they want that. So a lot of the teachers are just giving people what they want, and I suppose it's easier to sell something if you tell people that it's complicated. It's easier to get money out of
Yeah.
people than to tell people actually it's not that complicated and it's pretty simple,
um,
you know.
and it's also about time. So
Yeah,
like most courses, be it offline or online, like they have a time span. Like you can join the course for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, or 1 month. Like I joined British Council and I did their IELTS test, their IELTS course, and that was just for I guess 1.5 or 2 months. And
16
they just
weeks normally for.
I guess yes, and then they just rush through each module
Yeah.
And when it came to speaking and writing, like I was like, okay, you're just giving us 2 or 3 classes for that, and how can I improve in those 2 or 3 classes?
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why um, when I was at the British Council, we we were constantly having people fail writing because in a, let's say, a 16-week course or an 8-week course, a quarter of it was listening and a quarter of it was reading, and nobody needed help with those things. So it meant that they were spending weeks of time on things that they didn't need help with, and then we got to writing at the end and we had to rush through it because there wasn't as much help there.
Yeah.
And then we actually switched to, and helped develop their writing course, and that really did improve things. But what we found out was that we were spending a lot of time on things again within the writing course that people didn't really need help with. So I think, if not saying that people should join my course, but if you are at a school, try and get the teacher to help you understand why you are failing and focus on that area. Because if you spend a lot of time on things that are not a problem, then it's a waste of time, and you need to spend a lot of time on a few key areas that are the reasons why you're getting a lower score. And
Yeah.
if you do that, you're really you know your focus is very, very, very important.
Yeah. So, like for instance, they just told me that you need to improve your speaking, but they didn't tell me like how or what all areas. Like for example, they said that you need to improve your intonations or you need to just improve your pronunciation. I,
Yeah.
I just got this feedback like how to improve my pronunciation, or which areas in pronunciation do I
Yeah,
need to
because
improve.
pronunciation could mean intonation, sentence
Yeah,
stress,
it could
word
mean
stress,
anything.
connected speech. It could mean any sound within the phonemic chart. It's like
Yeah.
telling someone to improve their pronunciation is not actually helpful at all. It's actually
Yes.
less than helpful, because you're like, okay, now I know I have a general problem, but I don't know how to fix that at all. You know?
Yeah, and to fix that, I need to take help, and I had to take help from my my friends who are native speakers. So they told me, okay, you're pronouncing a few words incorrectly, and sometimes the stress is not correct, sometimes the intonation is not correct, and you're making a few sounds like they're odd sounds like V and W,
Hmm.
and the same feedback I got when I was trying to communicate in the Zoom sessions.
Hmm.
So then I
Yes,
decided to focus on
different
those.
people have different problems with different sounds. Like German speakers have a problem with V and W. Spanish speakers have a problem with V and B. Um, Vietnamese speakers have a problem with the and the. Like everybody, and then Indian speakers, for pronunciation, it can often be that they just speak a little bit too quickly, and if they slow down a
Yeah.
little bit, everything becomes better. But if you are going onto YouTube, or you're looking at a book and it's just telling you, in general, you need to improve your pronunciation, it's like, that doesn't help me. It's why we go to a doctor instead of going online onto YouTube and like Googling our symptoms. That's not really going to help us, because we
Yeah.
don't we don't need general advice. Same thing. We don't go and phone up a mechanic and say, my car isn't working. You bring the car to a mechanic, and then they look at it and fix the specific part of the engine or whatever it is, and then that helps you with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Excellent. So, any last minute advice that you would give to students who are struggling with their test?
I'd just say that keep it simple, keep it simple, and try to focus on your weaknesses.
Hmm.
Try to figure out your weaknesses and try to improve those, because those are the things that are making you stay behind.
Hmm.
It's not your level of general English. It's not about most of my friends also, like it's not their general level of English. Like it's sometimes they're making a few mistakes which are making them uh, say at 6.5 or 6. So, and that was the case with me too.
Yeah, so that's great advice. Keep it simple, and find out your specific areas of weakness by getting feedback, and you're going to really, really improve. All right. Thank you so much, Sarip. And I really appreciate you giving your feedback and helping people out. And I wish you the best of luck in the future.
Thank
When
you, Chris.
the immigration process starts again, if you need any advice on anything, just feel free to get in touch with me.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Hey, Chris here again. Hopefully you enjoyed that success story video. That student was part of our IELTS VIP course. And on that course, we show students exactly where they're going wrong and exactly what to do to get the score that they need. And we give them all the help and support that they need in order to get a 7, 8, or even 9 in their IELTS test. Now, we only work with a really small number of students. Because of the level of help and feedback and support that we give students, we can only work with a very small number of them. But we also have more success stories than any other online or offline course in the world, which has created a huge amount of demand for our course. So we're the only course in the world, I believe, that has a very long waiting list. If you want to join that waiting list, all you have to do is just click here and you'll be able to add your name, add your email address, and then when one of our students becomes successful and leaves the course, the next position can be for you. Hopefully see you in there. Bye-bye.